it kind of points out where are we going, what should we do as if this is a type of intervention that we would like to do further on in order to get like really more research data basically for this type of people. As we already know, and we have mentioned before, this type of intervention with older adults are really hard most of the time because, of course, we already know that you would be fighting with like a lot of dropouts or health conditions that are outside of our research or the intervention. So, what would be kind of the ideal setup project for this type of population and for in order to measure depression and exercise. So it's the effectiveness of physical exercise and the treatments of depression in older adults as an alternative to antidepressant drug in primary care. So there is this really big campaign about exercise as medicine. So it's and you can find it at K-State. Department of Kinesiology has a really, really strong. They do really collaborate really good with the Collegiate of Sports Medicine, and it's instead of prescribing, of course, medicines or drugs, you were prescribed exercise. But we're also really aware that not a lot of people that have XY illnesses are able to exercise. So how can we make it, easier to understand that it's just not like, okay, you're gonna walk outside, but you are like depressed, for example, and I don't feel like walking outside, or I really don't feel like getting out of my bed, because you would get a lot of those type of patients, or patients with other severe mental health conditions or physical conditions. So how can I make a person with lupus, for example? Oh yeah, if you increase your exercise activity, you definitely would get less joint pain, for example, because you're lubricating your joints. But this person like has a chronic pain all the time, so walking is not an option. So in order to support that, I think this is a really great research study that can help at some point support this idea of exercise as medicine or exercise as a prescription. So this idea of it's a randomized clinical trial. The number, which is really high, and that would be really perfect condition. So 312 participants over 65 years, and it's a 6-month intervention. And it's a structured exercise program or antidepressant medication. So yes, these people are still measuring antidepressant medication. Yet with exercise, and then there's other group with exercise. Sorry that I blanked out. And then it's providing a structured intervention method to assess and open new research ideas of this type of research, basically. So we're going to look into the perfect research idea of this collaboration. So it's recruitment. As we can see, is a recruitment of primary care. So they selected primary care clinics as the recruitment area, which is really, in my opinion, is really a good nucleus of people, because you do really get a lot of older adults over there. And they will do just inclusion and exclusion criteria, consent form, and assessment of physical condition, just general health assessment, kind of yearly physical studies. And then random assignment. One more time, we can see how effective the random design is on this type of research, because you really don't want to label people that are already having mental health issues. They already feel labeled, so we really don't want to do that. So separating them in groups, of course, a physical exercise group and an antidepressant, and then we'll do a pre and post assessment, and then the measurements, which I also think it's a pretty good idea, or really structured idea, I would rather say. 15 days, so really your body doesn't really adapt to any type of exercise within the first 2 days. We're still sore, and these people experience a lot of soreness with a little bit of physical activity. So a 15-day window, which is about 2 weeks, would be a really good time to have an assessment, have a chat with older people or with any really of your subjects of how are you feeling when it comes to an exercise intervention. How are you feeling? You're feeling stronger, and you can start seeing some changes or some adaptations on your body, even though again older adults tend to take a little bit of more time, but definitely you're making adjustments on your body. First month, 3 months, and of course the last 6 month, after the within the intervention. So as I mentioned, they assess like all the assessment like um, assessment days include a depression scale, level of physical activity, self-perceived health, which is usually like a log or personal. You keep track of it personal, like as you, not really like a structured thing. Detection of adverse effects. So what are you feeling? What other stuff is going on? Physical examination. One more time. Just like here, kind of a physical general assessment, and how are you how is your adherence to exercise programming? So another barrier that we as health professionals, mainly exercise people, we run into barriers of like program adherence. So dealing with older people, it's a little bit delicate and different because they do experience a lot of soreness, like I mentioned before, and they just get scared. We as younger people were like, okay, it's fine. I understand that soreness is good. I'm gonna grow my muscles and whatever. But this people already have other chronic disease or other chronic pain, so they associate pain with an illness or of course I don't want to take medicines and whatever, but with sickness. So adherence to exercise programming is very, very important when it comes to an exercise intervention with older adults. Um, some of the stuff that I really want to talk about, which is really the narrow part of my presentation, is some ideas of what type of exercise that this people do. So a main goal of every health professional and research is really the functionality and of older adults. So we still want them to be completely functional, independent until some point, um, and they do as well want to be fully functional. Because even example is like I really like related with my grandparent, for example. He's 85. He widowed like about 32 years ago, so he's been living alone at a young while teenager by himself. So it's really hard for us to really want to take care of him. We've been trying to take him home with us because he's experiencing some glaucoma issues. His knees and arthritis are really, really not fading, but really rapidly declining downhill. So, but he doesn't want to really. So, how can we convince them that this is like, here are some exercises that you can strengthen your muscles and still like in order to be functional and don't need help on your daily life tasks. So there is a certain amount of exercise for older adults that can be performed that we as normal healthy individuals already perform. As I mentioned, the focus of most of the programs that we as health professionals program basically or come up with is life quality, meaning that they would mimic or practice exercise that they can be transferred to daily life situations, like I mentioned before. The amount of repetitions and sets suggested by Silver Sneakers, for example, which is a program that is supplied by Medicare that you already, as an older person that with Medicare already paid for it, and you really have all the benefits of the world to participate on it. It's 8 to 12 reps and 2 to 3 sets. Other programs can vary and also depends on the fitness level of the participants. And we're going to go into it a little bit more later. Just like the research that we mentioned before, there is a warm-up, a stretch, an exercise selection or modality. So as strength training or cardiovascular training and a cool down. It's very important that we promote stretching and warm-up and cool down with these people to already prevent soreness. So So I attached some of the example of exercises, and there's a little short video like later on. So first picture here would be marching in place. So a lot of, for example, servo sneakers modality, you need to have a share most of the time, just for security and just to be just make sure that they feel comfortable doing exercise, because a lot of these people also don't go to exercise because they feel really attacked by all these weights and all these people lifting stuff, heavy things, and they cannot do that. So they already feel left behind. Some other exercise, for example, strength lower body exercises are sit and stand, or when we healthy individuals or really young individuals call squats. They're a great exercise. Just the lower body and just really general strength, because we stand up out of your chair all the time, all day, every day. Even if we still driving, we still do that all the time. So definitely one of my favorites. Wall push-ups are another thing. You would think, yeah, I have a lot of clients that can't go to the floor. So how can I still promote their upper body or like muscle, like, yeah, really, really, oh my gosh, I blanked. Arm strength or upper body strength, without like making them feel again left behind or really like I can't do this. So for example, one of my like really most used phrases are like, if you're already here at the gym, for example, you're really halfway in the workout, so might as well finish hard, for example. So yes, wall pushes are really good, and you can different modalities, like you can add tempo, you can make them count by themselves, so you are really increasing their cognitive activity by making them count, or backwards, forward, so going low in 3, 2, 1, so they just go 3, 2, 1, or making count of 3 and then you go 1, 2, 3, or just letters. Like there's so many stuff that you can do with them to still promote physical activity and also promote cognitive activity while they're exercising. And this is like definitely my all-time favorite, the tandem walk. So it's walking in an imaginary rope. As kids, we were really into, and really, I guess, I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of push towards this, walking in a rope. I take ballet classes, so this was the thing. So walking on a rope, it's a fully balanced exercise, really focusing on keeping your eyes leveled up instead of walking down, because as we grow, and even we as younger kids, we just look down at our phones, and older people tend to look down more to just prevent where they're walking, and so prevent falling, which is another big topic, and as an older adult public health issue. And this is exercise that you can do with one hand on the wall, or if you go back to your seat, you can keep your one hand on the chair, on the top of the chair, and walk a couple of steps, and that will take you around 3 steps forwards and back, which means, like, of course, 6, and that is still a really good exercise for your balance. And you can still challenge yourself. You can just stand, and it's a really different game. Definitely stretching out. This is not a Google picture, sorry. Lower back. People with, like, older adults tend to sit down for longer periods of time. So stretching those lower back, hamstring, and lower part of the legs prevent a lot of soreness, and a little bit of your upper back as well. Again, using a chair is very important, or everyone has a chair in their house, so why not? One more time, calf stretches, for example. People that stand a lot or sit a lot really need to pump blood towards those muscles, and we are being all the way secure with a chair. Another exercise that can be performed is just sitting on your chair and just reaching your toes. That also puts them on, of course, one more time, younger people are able to touch their toes, but a lot of older people, you'll find them that they can't even just go to have mid shin, for example, and that is a task for them to do. So you keep their minds busy by telling them, like, hey, today we're going to try to see how far we go. There is a research that I've read previously, and the University of Missouri have a really good and focus on this. One of their assessments is just leg reach, and they measure with a ruler basically how far you are from your toes. So that's something that they can look into as well, like as a fun activity rather than a research activity. So just like you were a kid, you grew up in an inch today and you mark it down, but front and reach your toes is a really, really interesting exercise or a stretch because that would make it easier for you to tie your shoes, for example. So a lot of older people are using already Velcro shoes or just slip-on shoes because they already have problems with this activity, of tying your shoes or just lower body strength and flexibility, Another exercise is just inner thigh stretch seated. Very important as well, an exercise. And older adults, it's really, really recommended that their head doesn't don't go below their hearts. So all these exercises